Good evening, everyone. So it is always so wonderful to be up here on this stage in front of all of you, our supporters, our members, our staff. There's so much love and energy in this room. You look on the walls and you see our themes of positivity, knowledge, future, and community running across pictures of our young people. And for me, it certainly warms my heart. I hope it warms yours as well. You've heard so many stories already from our young people. You've seen them in videos, you've seen their poetry and their speeches. And I think you're starting to understand, if you haven't already, the diversity of the work of Brotherhood Sister Soul, the complexity of the work of Brotherhood Sister Soul. And I was once asked, Bro Sis does so much. You have such a complicated curriculum, such a comprehensive array of supports. There's so much depth to your organizing. How do you decide what kind of services you provide? How do you decide what your organizing looks like? And I thought of the question, what does the work of justice look like? What does the work of justice look like? Brotherhood Sister Soul works in 3 separate spaces. We provide direct service, much of what you've heard of this evening, 12,000 meals a year to young people, teaching a moral and ethical code. What does it mean to be women and men, leaders, brothers and sisters in your community? International study throughout Africa and Latin America and the Caribbean. Teaching young people to be organizers and activists and artists and social change makers. All the protective services that are also necessary of legal representation and medical health support and mental health support. It's really wraparound comprehensive support systems for young people. And I think about the fact that in this city, nearly 40% of people live in poverty or near the poverty line. Nearly 3.5 million of our fellow New Yorkers. And so I think about the injustice of poverty and of hunger and of homelessness. And I think about the warrior spirit that is Cedra Sebastian, who you heard from already this evening. You can clap for Cedra. And so I remember just 6 months ago when we received a call from a family who was facing homelessness in the month of December. And Cedra, with her unyielding spirit, sprung into action, called on other staff at the organization, and responded to this crisis of a family being in arrears by $9,000. And she secured support from one agency after the other until the total arrears had dropped to $3,000. And then Brotherhood Sister Soul paid that $3,000 to keep a family of 4 in their home. But I think about what the injustice of poverty and homelessness is in this city, and that we all stand by and allow it to continue. There are 130,000 children in New York City's public school system who are homeless every day. 130,000 children, more than attend school in all of Boston or Washington, D.C. That's the injustice we allow to continue every day. And so there's the direct service of Brotherhood Sister Soul, and then there's the training of Brotherhood Sister Soul. It's the second leg of the stool. And so we trained over 2,000 educators from 250 organizations around the nation on our model, how to do our work in their home community. And we started formal programming in Brazil and in Bermuda. And there's a school in Queens that after 4 years had no suspensions, not because teenagers didn't get into trouble, but because the response was a response of restorative justice and not punitive, because they realized that it is unjust to push children out of school and to push them from the school into prison pipeline. So the response to the injustice of that approach is to treat children as children. I think of the third area that we work on, the issue of organizing and activism, creating social change, increasing the number of social workers in our schools and mental health providers, shutting down the abomination that is Rikers Island, raising the age so that children are not prosecuted as adults here in this state of New York. And I think of another staff person, an alumni of the organization, the incredibly brave Nicholas Pert, who wrote an op-ed for the New York Times called "Why is the NYPD After Me?" that changed the very perspective of the then public advocate, Bill de Blasio, as he became mayor, to reform an unconstitutional practice in this city. And so Nicholas's bravery was to speak out against the injustice that was racialized, subjective, oppressive policing. And so I think about that as a response to injustice. We in New York City have the most segregated public school system in America, 60 years after Brown v. Board, the most segregated public school system in America. There are roughly 1.2 million children in our system, and only 70% graduate from high school. So hundreds of thousands are not graduating. And of those who graduate, only 35% graduate college-ready without need of remedial support to matriculate to a community college. And so we're selling our children a false bill of goods. And I can think of actually no more profound injustice to put on our young people than to not educate them to compete in society, to be strong adults, to be people who can build enabled, strong lives for themselves. That is the essence of injustice. And so when that person said to me, how do you decide all the work that you do at Brotherhood Sister Soul? How do you figure out what services to provide and what training to do and what organizing to do? I thought of our theory of change. Very simple, very direct, and also very complex. We will provide support, guidance, love, and education to our children. Support, guidance, love, and education. We will teach them to form discipline and order in their life. And then we will provide opportunities and access so they can develop agency. Because we understand the connection between education and transformation, that our young people are empowered and powerful young women and young men who can transform their lives. And the only change in this country has ever occurred from young people being educated, politicized, and driven to create change themselves. It's been the core of the women's movement, the civil rights movement, the effort for freedom for gay and lesbian people in this country. It has always been there, the merging of political education and social activism. And so we want our young people to be a part of that vanguard and to transform their own lives. So what does the work of justice look like? The work of justice looks like the Brotherhood Sister Soul. Every day when our young people commit to living their life in a more conscious and righteous way, every day when they seek to live up to these ideals of manhood and womanhood that reject the twisted and difficult and norms that are just destroying the psyche of our young people, when they make a decision to live in a different way, they are doing revolutionary work. When our staff is every single day educating our young people, they are doing transforming work. And so in this time when so many of us feel assaulted by all the attacks on our community, on our psyche, on our sense of self, the work of Brotherhood Sister Soul, the themes of positivity, of knowledge, of community and future, I think are a map for us. They are a shining star of what work looks like that leads towards justice and equity and equality for all. It's the work that you're supporting this evening. It's the work our young people are committed to. It's the work that will finally make this city the city it should be and allow us to really be an example to this nation of the kind of work that is necessary, the work of creating justice. Thank you.